Howdy friends, welcome to another episode of the Rifle Church channel. Today I was looking through one of my favorite forums, Canadian Gun Nuts, and I was looking for some Lee Enfield parts, and so I put a post up, looking for parts A, B, C, D, E, F, G for Lee Enfields. Doesn't matter if it's number 4 or if it's number 1. And then I started thinking, I went to a couple of different posts that other people have put up there, and all of the parts are just so old and rusty and worn out. And we're selling worn out parts in many cases in order to keep Lee Enfields going. At least, to make them a little bit more serviceable, trying to squeeze a little bit more time out of these rifles because they're perfectly shootable, but just, you lose, parts wear out. There are some specific parts on Lee Enfields that wear out faster. And the supply of these parts are dangerously low, and I'm worried that some people out there maybe are running a Lee Enfield that is so worn out that it's not safe to shoot anymore because you just don't have the parts. Like, for example, there's only so much you can do with a chamber with the headspace is elongated. Those are generally stamped DP for drill purpose only and not be put back into service, right? Well, I've seen people out there shooting these drill purpose rifles, and I know, you can put a new bolt head on these rifles, that is a little bit longer to try to close that if you can find one. But truth of the matter is some of these rifles need to be stripped down for parts themselves, and that's just the case, right? For many of these rifles, they need to be taken off the shelf and stripped down for parts. But what got me, what I've been thinking about though, is that how many of these were made? How many of these are still in the hands of some of our newest shooters out there and are still putting food on the table, still putting deer and moose and boar or whatever it is that they're hunting? These rifles are fully capable of doing so many things. Why aren't our local manufacturers, our national manufacturers, small retailers pushing to have new spec-made Lee Enfield parts designed and marketed? One of the benefits of the Lee Enfield was that you could remove it from the field, a regimental armor somewhere out there in the middle of a trench, could get into his parts bag, put the new part back on, give the rifle back to the guy and said, off you go, get back out there. You're back in service, you're back in production, go. Report back to your home unit. That's what these things were designed to do. The components and material, parts for these rifles, they're all to spec. So you take one out of a parts bag, put a new safety on there, your safety is operational, get back out there, you're in business. So they're kind of like a truck. You just put the new part on and go. But they were made to be a spec part. And so, companies out there like Kodiak Manufacturing or Prairie Gun Works or Blask, and there's many more. Relatively small manufacturers could be building these spec parts. There's millions of these rifles out there still, and they need parts. Can you manufacture them? If you need help procuring a list of the parts that are most commonly started to go on these rifles, let me know. Contact me, and we'll just have a conversation. I'm continually going over rifles that are coming to me, probably because of this channel right here, the Rifle Church YouTube channel and the Vimeo channel, which is most of you probably haven't seen yet. There's a Vimeo channel and a Patreon account where lots of videos are going up, but you're not getting to see any of that because this is YouTube. But lots of people are coming to me and saying, hey, what do I do with this? Or how do I get this fixed? Or even rifles are actually coming to me from other lawfully abiding licensed gun owners and saying, can you check the headspace? Is this good to go? Continually consulting with people that are on the rifle range. I don't charge them. I help them and I send them on their way. Just like your regimental armor out in the field. There's so many things you can do with these things, but you need to have the parts. And our part supply is really dwindling. There's a market opportunity here for somebody, especially here in Canada, that is willing to maybe go the extra step and start manufacturing these components. There was a company called Australian International Arms. They came out with this new kind of Lee Enfield that they marketed here in North America. And one of the problems with those rifles was they weren't using spec-made parts. Right, and they weren't, for example, the cocking pieces on those rifles have a tendency to wear out because I don't know what kind of metal they were using. They were pot metal, but they weren't properly case hardened, or kind of what the quality standards were of the components of those Australian Enfields. I'm not referring to Lithgow, I'm referring to the AIA rifles. And so they're just not that popular because they weren't spec parts. Hardness, you want your sears and you want your cocking pieces to be hard because they're two metal surfaces that are pushing hard against one another and they're constantly tripping, right? So worldwide, people need Enfield parts, friends. Local manufacturers, see what you can do about it. And if you need help, let me know. Cheers. Hope you're all doing well, and as always, Maple Leaf up.